Hello, everybody, and welcome to Water Cooler Conversations, where us online entrepreneurs get to gather around our virtual water cooler and talk all things business, both business how-tos and business, all the emotional stuff that goes into being a business owner as well. My name is Jocelyn Mozak. I'm a WordPress web designer and agency owner and also a speaker. And today what I wanted to talk to you about in honor of Valentine's Day was to ask you, do you love your website or are you ready to ask it for a divorce? Yeah, there's a very common term I like to use called website shame. And it's funny in some ways, but it's not in others because, you know, website shame is that feeling of, ugh, you know, that I have my site and it's really not doing what it needs to do. And, you know, that feeling of, oh, I could go out and market myself, but if they went to my site, I'd be embarrassed, and like all of that stuff that goes along with kind of that feeling, that heaviness. And so what I like to do with my clients is take them through kind of a quick 5-step questionnaire to kind of get them probing as to what really in their site is going wrong, and also have them look at what is going right. Because often when it comes to a website, people will feel like, oh, it's broken, it's a mess. You know, this whole like, let's just toss it and start again. But what I love helping people figure out is, no, okay, there's stuff that could be better, but maybe we can uncover what are the key elements that need to go and what are the key elements that need to stay, and maybe break down this mountain of a website that feels like, oh, I just don't want to talk about it, I'd rather hide under my desk than deal with it, into bite-sized pieces and action steps. So again, in the spirit of maybe helping you fall in love with it just a little bit, or maybe in the spirit of helping you figure out 1 or 2 things you can do, I want to just take you through 5 questions now. And if you're open to it, I'd love it if you could share your comments in the Facebook feed, because one of the great things about these conversations is we realize that we are not the only ones, that so many of us have the exact same feelings, the exact same experiences, and so we can share and learn from each other and lift each other up, and also sort of hold space for each other as we all feel a lot of the same struggles. So what I want you to do, and you can also jot this down on a piece of paper, is I just want you to reflect. Think about your current site right now. What do you feel? What words come to mind? Do you feel excitement? Do you feel pride? Do you feel embarrassment? Does it feel like a weight? Does it feel light? Does it feel supportive? Does it feel like an obstacle? What are the words that come to mind when you think about your site right now? Because this is really important. We're going to try to uncover the emotion underneath it, and then we'll look at the action steps. Because I can tell you all day long the things that go into an incredible site, but it's a lot of times getting at the emotion that is oh so important at figuring out what needs to happen next. Hey, Sarah, great to have you join. So again, thinking about your current site, what words come to mind? And thinking about the words that came to mind, whether they be positive or negative, I'd love you to just jot down what about your site, hi Kylie, what about your site caused that emotion? So maybe if you were really happy about it, maybe there's some, you can write down the aspects of your site that really gave you that pride, that made you know that it was working hard for your business. Or maybe if you felt really heavy about your site, you can write down, oh, it's so hard to edit, and I'm not sure about this, and I wish it did that. Just kind of vent it out. And I'm just going to pause for a moment and let you guys just jot a couple notes down. And I also want you to consider, you know, after pondering a little bit, we first looked at our site, hey, Ithaca, and thought about what we loved about our site and what was working, or what, well, let me put it this way. If you thought of your site and thought of it in a positive light, I want you to reflect on what could be better. And if when you thought of your site, you thought of it in a negative light, I'd like you to just consider that it might have 1 or 2 redeeming things, and I'd love you to jot those notes down. Because as I said, you never want to kind of throw the baby out with the bathwater. Even if you're doing an entire site redesign, it's really important to look at what is working and what isn't working as you move forward. And also, if you find a redesign is really expensive and you don't want to invest in that, maybe you can figure out that critical next step, because that's what I'm hoping to do through these sequence of questions. We're looking at what feels really good about our current site and what makes us feel kind of down. And so as you reflect on the aspect that could be improved of your site, you may have a long list, you may have a short list, but I want you to think about your ideal client. And although certain aspects of your site might drive you nuts, when it comes to someone visiting your site, what of the list of things you said you'd like to improve would be most important to them? And I just want you to write that down, because ultimately, while there might be a laundry list of things that irritate the heck out of you about your site, what's most important is the experience of your customer visiting your site. And the best thing you can do for your business is incrementally enhance those things that are most important to them. And then the final thing, and this video may be one of those, I've been thinking about giving it as a webinar, and maybe I'll ask that question at the very end, because I'm feeling as I'm doing the live and people jumping on and off, I'm sensing that, to take you through a process, even if it's only 5-10 minutes, jumping on and off kind of doesn't work. So it's a learning for me doing this. But, when we started, we thought about what did we think of our current site? People like that idea, okay. When we started, I asked you how you thought about your current site, and it might have been good and it might have been I don't want to talk about it. And we've gone through what's working, and we've gone through what could be improved, and even more importantly, what could be improved that's most important to your customer. Pretend it's fixed. Pretend that thing that will help the most is resolved. How does that impact your business? Both in its bottom line, but also in how you feel like you would show up when you go to a networking event, when you're online. If you resolve that one thing, there might be a long list, but that top item that is just driving you nuts and you've now realized is the one that's going to have the greatest impact on your business, how would it feel to have that fixed? How would that shift how you show up in your business? And how would that ultimately shift your business? Yeah, no, so Kylie brought up a great one. So she mentioned one of the things that, and one of the things actually, so I'll just, before I dive into that, I'm going to share something that is on my radar, and I want to see comments. You can either PM me or make comments if this sounds good. I'm thinking about holding a VIP intensive day where we do some of this stuff at the beginning to see kind of where you're at with your current business. But then deep dive in like a small group setting, like all of 5-6 people in sort of a Zoom conference, where we deep dive into where is your current site right now, what makes an effective site, both in how it emotionally connects with your prospective client and how it functionally works to support your prospective client. And my goal is that you'd leave this VIP day with a workbook complete that would really let you know what are my next steps. And maybe you decide you're going to tackle one a month, or maybe you decide, here, web developer, make it so. But the idea would be that you'd walk away from that VIP day with a clear, as opposed to this mountain of a website that you don't want to talk about, a clear next step. I'm getting hearts. All right, well, those of you who are giving me the hearts and the thumbs up, put comments there because I want to follow up with you. This is something I'm really excited about and I really want to do. And as we know, the hardest part in business is that first time. So put your name down, PM me, keep giving me those hearts, and I would love to do it. So yeah, so Kylie mentioned an important one for her. What came up for her when she reflected on her site was her content. And that is so important. I mean, we may get fixated on having a pretty site, but what is so important is your content. I like to joke, and when I coach my clients about their content, I joke that the homepage is not the about page. Because as service providers, it's so easy to get in our own heads about how we do our job and that we're qualified. We're trying to prove that, no, we're good at what we do. And it's so important that you speak to your ideal client and that your language on your website really speaks to how are they feeling. They've reached out, they've come to your site, something's up. Make sure your words address how they're feeling today. Yep, Kylie, you know this, girl. How they're feeling today, how they want to feel after working with you. And then once they know you're someone who understands them, then you can invite them to contact you, connect with you, and let you be the person to make the magic happen. So thank you for that comment. I could do a whole live on that, and I probably should. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys this morning, just those kind of 5 tips to kind of step you through. If you're having a not such an in-love relationship with your website, how you might figure out, what's the one next thing you might do to move you a little closer and prevent a divorce. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Have a fabulous time. Until next week. Bye-bye, guys.